talking about saving the world, and we were talking about how to get out of our comfort zone the last week, and how does that just fit into where the world is going? So I was just thinking this morning, when I listened to Rabbi Alon Anava's talk on Mashiach is here, and like a call to action, and I was listening. It was, I think, just after Pesach, and I was on my way to Yerushalayim, and I looked at all the bus schedules. I think I had about 3 buses to catch, and one by one I missed each bus. As I came up from the stairs, the first bus I missed, and then the next bus that came, somehow it got delayed, with babies and prams coming on and off the bus, traffic like you can't believe. It took me about an hour to get to where I needed to get, and then I missed the bus to Jerusalem. And I missed it literally. I saw it pulling out of the bus station. And it's one of the things that Alon says is that when we sitting here, I can say this because I'm not a rabbi. We are sitting with Mashiach. Mashiach is right here. It just needs to be revealed, and it just needs all of us to push and tip the scales to bring it into reality. And so when I missed all the sequence of buses, I thought, how can this be possible? And what is this showing me in terms of the spiritual world? Because we can literally be 1 minute late for something and the bus leaves. And when Mashiach comes, people, I don't think, really understand that, so there's going to be huge celebrations and partying, but in terms of the people that are not where they should be in order to be part of the whole experience and the whole reason this world was created, are going to be, it's just, they're not going to be there. They're going to have missed those buses. And it is, on a physical level, it's a gut-wrenching experience. So Alon is all fired up here, ready to go in 2 weeks' time to America, and he's taking with him books that he has. You've written a book on Mashiach is coming, and how to plan, to get into action, how to wake up, get us all woken up. And so that's what we're going to speak about this morning. And welcome, Rabbi Alon Anava. And just if we're not at the break yet, no, we're not. We got time. So, Alon, just give to share with the beloved listeners where what brings your passion for this topic of bring people's awareness to the fact that Mashiach is coming, Mashiach is here.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be in the Kavanah Show. And I know the audience is growing and growing by the feedback that I'm getting. So Baruch Hashem, I know we're making good waves around the world. And yes, one of the most spoken topics today is Mashiach, is the coming of Mashiach. Almost anywhere you go, almost anywhere you listen and you hear about the coming, Mashiach is coming, Mashiach is coming. Big rabbis are talking, get ready, Mashiach is coming. It's definitely one of the most spoken topics out there. The problem is that the majority of people, including the religious people, don't really believe that it's really a real topic. I mean, yes, everybody's talking about it, and it's advertised everywhere, and people are saying how it's any second can happen. But the reality is that the majority of people that at least that I run into, and I'm not talking about the people who are not religious, I'm talking about the people who are religious, that's supposed to be living with Mashiach, altogether don't really believe Mashiach is coming. Because anyone who would really believe that Mashiach is coming, then she would act totally different. And it really sounds like a dream. It really sounds like this, euphoric stage and something like, wow, it will be so nice, but it will never come. I mean, I hear the most weirdest excuses. It's an invention, and it's a dream, it's a myth, it's just a way of keeping everybody and having hopes. I hear all the excuses out there. And unfortunately, it's said by religious people that, one of our foundation of our beliefs is to believe that Mashiach is coming. And, I can say my trademark is the fact that I had my near-death experience. When I go to lectures, when I go to tours, anywhere I go, people want to hear about my near-death experience. They don't want to hear about Torah. And if I get invited to places and I ask them, what do you want me to speak about? They're like, oh, we want you to speak about your experience. We have enough rabbis that can teach us Torah. So, going on the topic of near-death experience, it says in the Talmud that when a soul goes up to Shamayim, to the heavenly court, right after it leaves this world, the first question they ask the soul is, have you dealt business with honest belief? Meaning, were you honest in business? This is the first question they ask the soul. And we're not going to go right now to the reasons why this is the first question. Yeah. If you dealt in business honest, if you were innocent in business, but just in the fact that that's the first question, you can already see the depth of how important it is to be honest. But the next question that they ask the soul is, did you set times to learn Torah? And the third question they ask the soul is, did you believe in full heart every day Mashiach is coming? And you just see by the hierarchy of the questions that the Gemara, that the Talmud is talking about, the importance of being honest, and of course in business, because all our life is about business. And you don't have to be a businessman in order to be honest in business. You can be an employee and not steal from your boss by using the phone all the time, or whatever you can use behind the back. And of course the importance of Torah. And the third main thing is, did you expect Mashiach every day? And the reality is that the majority of the population of the world, Jews and non-Jews, don't really believe Mashiach is coming. Because if a person would really believe that Mashiach is coming any second, his entire agenda and behavior would be totally different.
Yes, for sure.
So since we're going to the break soon, and you asked me why am I so hyped up, is because I know Mashiach is coming. I know that he's coming any second.
Yes.
So my entire life, my entire schedule in my day is based on that. It's almost like you said, I'm about to miss the bus. How do I plan my day not to miss the bus? So if I know Mashiach is coming, I don't want to miss it, so my entire day is planned to that. And B'ezrat Hashem, after the break, we're going to go into some more details that hopefully will make other people believe that.
Okay, thank you, Craig.
Rotor-Rooter. From Johannesburg to Israel. To business. This is 101.9 ChaiFm.
Good morning and welcome to the Kavanah Show, Body, Mind and Soul, live from Sfat, Israel. And I have the privilege again of sitting with Rabbi Alon Anava, and who's become my co-host. It's been absolutely amazing. The whole journey here in Israel and making Aliyah has been absolutely amazing. And just to be able to take ChaiFm into Israel and to sit here together with someone of the caliber of Alon is just absolutely amazing. So I do feel very, very privileged. So Alon, just before the break, we were talking about you saying Mashiach is coming. And in your book, you say there's about 300 pages of sources that you have been working on for a long time. And that's what you're going to be taking with you to America. And that's, please God, is going to be sold there, fundraising, because we've got a ladies' yeshiva that's going up here in Sfat. And so that's very, very exciting. So, Alon, just to go back to the book, just to give a few sources to the listeners.
Well, the main part of the book is about half a year ago, I gave a lecture. Not even half a year ago. I'm totally off the time schedule. Right before Pesach, I gave a lecture in New York about the Mashiach is coming. And I mentioned there that in the last year and a half, I did a very, very long research, and every source that I found that we know that Mashiach is coming. And the truth is that there are hundreds of sources that show exactly when Mashiach is coming. I mean, from the first day of creation, we knew when Mashiach is coming. I mentioned before that it's a very popular topic that Mashiach is coming, and the most populous question that I do get is, we've been hearing that Mashiach is coming for thousands of years. Why should it happen now? I mean, it didn't happen for 2,000 years. Why now? Why shouldn't it happen in 50 years, or 40 years, or 30 years? So the reality is that from the creation of the world, we already knew about Mashiach. And one of the first verses in the Torah, in the book of Bereshit, it's talking about Ruach Elokim merachefet al pnei hamayim, that the Spirit of God is hovering over the water. And the commentary Rashi says, this is Rucho shel Mashiach, this is the Spirit of Mashiach. So right from the beginning, the Torah was already mentioning the coming of Mashiach. And throughout the entire Torah, it's talking about Mashiach. And even now, we're in Israel, so we're in Parashat Balak. The rest of the world is in Parashat Chukat. But in our parasha, it's already talking about Mashiach. There's many places in the Torah, I'm not talking about the prophets right now, or later stages like the Zohar and the Gemara. In the Torah, it's mentioning Mashiach numerous times. So I made a very long research trying to pull out from all the sources that we have where it's talking about Mashiach and when it's coming and how it's coming. And I found hundreds of sources, hundreds and hundreds of sources that made me not only understand and believe by seeing black on white that we knew, our sages knew, our forefathers knew, everybody knew exactly when Mashiach is coming. And I wrote these sources for myself. I didn't write it to any other purpose. And right before Pesach, I gave this lecture in New York about the coming of Mashiach that became very, very popular. There were about a couple news channels. They were filming it. The news channel of Hidabrut, which is a worldwide organization, Torah Anytime, and some other places. And I posted this video online on my website, which got 30,000-40,000 views instantly, and thousands of emails that came in. Baruch Hashem, very good feedback of people who told me that they the next day they filed an application with Nefesh B'Nefesh. So it was a very powerful lecture, but I got hundreds of emails of people telling me, you mentioning these hundreds of sources, and you only gave in the lecture 5 or 10. Where are these sources? So I says, these sources are in my notebook, in my handwriting in Hebrew. So I started translating all these sources, and the book that Bezrat Hashem will be ready when I'm going to the States in 2 weeks is holding these sources. Now, since we're working around the clock, I am hoping that the book will have all the sources. I'm going to have to put it into print literally the last minute before I'm leaving, and whatever I'm able to put in the book, that's what's going to go out with it. So there might be the option of we're going to have to do a second edition or second print with the sources that are not in there. But we're really literally working around the clock that will be as much as sources in it. So the book itself will be mainly, the majority of it are the sources, because people want to see black and white, and unfortunately even that doesn't even convince a lot of people. But in the book I'm sharing as much as I can all these sources. A lot of them are very hidden, a lot of them are hints, a lot of them are Torah codes, a lot of them are numerical values, like what's called gimatriot, that are hinted in many different places, and then comes the third person. And when I'm saying a person, I'm indicating that these are great tzaddikim in our generation, whether it's the Vilna Gaon or the Arizal or many pillars in our Torah, that they come and they connect all the dots together and show the dates and the calculation. But the truth is that we have so much information in the Torah exactly when Mashiach is coming. And our sages teach us that the Geulah, the redemption, can come in 2 ways. First of all, it can come in its time. This is what's called Be'ita. There's a date. When Hashem created the world, He gave a date. And that date was already known from the first day of creation. And the first one who knew about this date is Noach. And in the Parsha of Noach, it's already mentioned the date in codes.
Wow.
So in the book, I show how in the Parsha of Noach, which is the second Parsha of the Torah, which is the first time there was a redemption to the world. This is the first redemption, because the world was redeemed from the stage it was before that. So in the Parsha of Noach, it's already coded the date when Mashiach is coming. Noach is already talking about when is Mashiach coming. And the next one who's talking about the coming of Mashiach is Yaakov Avinu. And when he was rebuking the tribes, it says that right before he died, he was rebuking the tribes. They were all standing and around his bed. And then it says that Mashiach wanted, that Yaakov Avinu wanted to reveal the date. רצה לגלות את הקץ. And right when he wanted to tell them the date, it says נסתלקה דעתו. נסתלקה דעתו means that he suddenly lost his train of thought. Now Yaakov Avinu was one of the biggest prophets in our history. He was considered the best of all three fathers. And this type of human being does not forget or loses his train of thought. Rather, he made a very quick calculation. What's going to happen if I tell them now the date when Mashiach is coming? So he made a very quick calculation and he said, okay, either they're going to fall into despair right away when I tell them Mashiach is coming in 4 years, or they'll be like, oh, okay, so if we have 4,000 years, let's just go and party, and we'll do whatever we want, and in 3,999 years from now, we'll do tshuva. So he decided not to tell them. And throughout the history of the Torah, and then comes the Tanakh, and the books of all the prophets, and then in the Talmud, and then in the Zohar, and all these sages, and all these sources, they knew exactly when Mashiach is coming, when the option of Be'ita, in its time, is coming, just that they chose not to reveal it. And most of the sources that I found about the coming of Mashiach are in the book of the Zohar. And that's why for many, many years, up until a couple hundred years ago, the Zohar was not even found. You couldn't even find it because the dates were there. So since we have to go on our next break, Bezrat Hashem, after the break, we're going to continue about the sources and the coming of Mashiach.
Okay, so we're going to our second ad break. We'll be back with you now.
444-40, that's the number to call.
The best part of your day. At the heart of your community. All the talk, all the music, all the news. ChaiFm.
Good morning and welcome to the Kavanah Show, Body, Mind and Soul. And we are live from Sfat, Israel. And this morning I'm sitting together with Rabbi Alon Anava and we are speaking about Mashiach is here. That's my words. And how we're going to wake people up, how to a call to action, and also something that Alon mentioned is why now, and the sources. He's just sharing with us just a few sources in where it mentions in all the books of our writings and the Torah as to when Mashiach is going to come. And as you say, are they in its time? And then you're going to carry on from there.
So the two options when Mashiach is going to come is either in its time, in its designated date, this is called Be'ita, or it's going to come in a way that is called Ve'achishena. Ve'achishena means I will make it come faster. So we always had the option, and when I'm saying we as a humankind, is bringing the redemption much faster. At this point, we're already past the date that we were supposed to get Mashiach. At this point, Bemet, nobody really knows why the delay. All the great rabbis and Mekubalim, nobody knows why it didn't come yet. I mean, I have my theory, and my theory is very, very simple, that every morning Mashiach is already here, and every morning Mashiach wakes up in the morning and he tells Hashem, he tells God, okay, today's the day, I got to go out, I got to do my job. And God tells him, no, maybe wait one day, because I just looked online and I saw that there are a couple thousand lectures going to go on tonight, and there's going to be a lot of new Torah classes going on tonight. And from what I'm seeing, at least a couple hundred people will do tshuva today. Maybe wait one more day, and we have another few hundred people on board. So Mashiach says, okay, I'll wait. And then the next day, the exact same thing, and the next day, the exact same thing. That Hashem says, maybe, wait, one more day, look how many people are doing tshuva. So that's my theory, even though a lot of people contradict it and say, yeah, but like this, we'll never have Mashiach. So you're right, Hashem has patience, and He wants everybody to get on board. And at some point, He's going to say, okay, that's it, no more time.
Yes.
So one option is coming in its time, which we know we already passed it. And the other option was to hasten it, which we already passed that too, but we still have the option of bringing the Geula. Now, the two ways the redemption can come is, one of them is a good way, that the Geula is going to come very quiet and very merciful and no issues and no problems. And the other way is chas v'shalom, with an unbelievable destruction. And the way the world is going and the way how it looks like we're more on the side that it might come in a very bad way. And when I'm saying a bad way, is that the coming of the redemption has to go through, it's a period, it's a very long period. I mean, a lot of these details I'm talking about in the book, which is very important to read, just to know how it's coming, when it's coming, what's the process. The coming of Mashiach is a very long process. The Zohar is talking about the process. It's talking about that it's a process of 72 years, and it has to go through different stages. But one of the stages is destruction. And the destruction is not necessarily a negative thing. Rather, you see that in this world, anything that has to have a rebirth or a new state, it has to go through some type of a destruction. And that's the nature of the world. And one example out of many is, if you take now a seed and you put it on your table and you water it, it will be on the table for 40 years, nothing will grow out of it. But if you put it in the ground, the power that is in the earth will make the seed rot. And once it's completely rotten, then it will start sprouting into a new plant. So it has to go through some type of a destruction. The seed has to be completely destroyed in order to have brand new life. And we see it with our human cells, and we see it in many different places. That before a new beginning has to be a total destruction. So anyways, before the redemption is coming, there's going to have to be some type of a destruction. And that's why we see in our life, in our world, that things are slowly are being destroyed. And the last thing that needs to be destroyed before Mashiach is coming is the economy. Because when Mashiach is going to come, we're not going to have such a thing as economy.
Yes.
There's not going to be money. There's not going to be jobs. We're not going to have a stock market. So we see how slowly the economy is being crushed, slowly, starting in 2007, 2008, when most of the economies in the world had this huge crush. And slowly it's evolving. And we see one of the biggest signs that 2 weeks ago that England pulled out from the European Union, which caused massive crashes in the economy. So this is one of the many signs that we see how Mashiach is coming. But not to get sidetracked completely, the redemption can come either peaceful or it will come in a destruction. And it says in the book of the Daniel that if it will come nice and peaceful, then all the Jews around the world will come to Israel on clouds of glory. And the Ben Ish Chai, who was a very big rabbi 100 years ago, was considered a very big Mekubal. He said that this will actually be actually like that. We are going to be on clouds. But in the book of Zechariah, it's saying that if Chas v'Shalom the Geula is coming not in a nice way, then Mashiach is going to come poor and riding on a donkey. Now, of course, this is a metaphor. Mashiach is not going to come on a donkey, even though the other day we were sitting on my porch and we saw somebody riding on a donkey, and we were making a joke out of it. But when it's talking about poor and riding on a donkey, poor means that he's going to have dalut, he's not going to have any abundance. And riding on a donkey is that donkey in Hebrew is chamor. And chamor comes from the word chomer, physicality. Mashiach is going to have to bend and break the physicality and make that the physical part of the world will be totally poor. That he will have to totally break the physicality and our need to the physicality, and for that we're all slaves to physical things.
Wow.
We are
slaves. Wow.
we are like bent over for every little physical thing. Mashiach is going to have to break it. That's why many people in our generation are suffering from financial loss and many other ways that the physicality has to be bent over and has to be completely broken. But the way the redemption is going to come is either good or bad. Unfortunately, it seems that we're not going in the right way. Now it's talking about, I don't think we're going to have time to talk about it in the show, but it's talking about it in the Zohar, that before Mashiach comes, it has to be 3 big wars. And these wars are called Gog and Magog. Maybe a lot of people know about it. It's a very known topic. Everybody's talking about this Gog and Magog. There's going to be nuclear bombs, World War III. The war that the Zohar is talking about is a spiritual war, of course.
Yes.
And Gog and Magog, the way the Zohar is explaining it, the Zohar is calling it Milchemet Gigim, war of thoughts. And it's talking about that first the war is in the spiritual realm, and if chas v'shalom we don't do anything about it, it manifests into the world and becomes a physical war. So we already saw 2 world wars. And the first one was World War I, and the second one was World War II, which amazingly, when World War I broke out, the Chafetz Chaim said, this is the first Gog and Magog. And 25 years from now, the second Gog and Magog will finish, which sure enough, exactly, his prediction was right. 25 years later, the Second World War ended. And he said, this is one of the many sources, I'm talking about the Chafetz Chaim, he said 72 years after the second Gog and Magog, the third Gog and Magog will happen, and Mashiach is coming. So if you make a quick calculation, 72 years from 1939, which is the beginning of the World War II, is 2011. So this is the first date that we're looking at. And if you take 72 years from the 1945, which is the end of World War II, then it's 2017. So this is the buffer according to the prophecy based on the Zohar by the Chafetz Chaim. And this is the buffer, 2011, 2017, when the third Gog and Magog has to happen and Mashiach has to come, which we see in physical eyes that the world is in war. Almost any country out there has somewhere a war. But there's always talking about a spiritual war that manifests into the physical war, we are in a spiritual war, this war of thoughts. I like calling it the war of screens, because everybody is hypnotized by the screens, whether it's a phone, whether it's a tablet, whether it's a computer, everybody is hypnotized by these screens. And if you're really looking at your day, you would notice that a big portion of your day you are glued to a screen, and the majority of the time is wasted on nothing. I mean, if you shop online, if you read online, you learn, you check your emails or whatever, fine. But if you really do an analogy, you will see that the majority of the time that you are online is wasted on nonsense. Real nonsense. And we are hypnotized by these screens, and our subconscious is fed by what's going on these screens. And we might think it doesn't affect us, but you are looking on almost anything online, you'll see that there's so many things around, whether you're looking at a news website, you're reading the news, but look how many banners are around it. You're looking on Facebook, how many banners are around what you're focusing on. And our subconscious registers everything.
Yes, it does.
And we literally being hypnotized by these screens, by the media and ads. And you see young kids now that are glued to the screens because parents don't have patience to be with them. The kids are glued to the screens, and their entire behavior is based on what they see in the screens. Violence and cursing and disrespect. So we are already in this war of thoughts, this Gog and Magog. And we are praying that it will not manifest into the physical world, because the last 2 wars, it started in a spiritual level. You see that before World War I and before World War II, there was unbelievable assimilation and the whole movement of reform and Zionism and moving away from God and against God, and it manifested into a physical war. If chas v'shalom now, this spiritual war will manifest into this world, we will have a disaster. And all it takes is the first nutcase to press the button. That's it. I mean, there's enough countries out there that all they need to do is press a button and half the world is destroyed. And every day you're hearing these threats. Korea is threatening, Iran is threatening, the Soviet Union. Every second day they say we're going to wipe this country out of the earth, we're going to wipe that country out of the face of the earth. So we're literally, every day is like a
seesaw.
Exactly, yes. A seesaw. If somebody's going to press the button or not going to press the button. And if chas v'shalom the button will be pressed, then we're in big problems. So I believe we have to go to the next break?
No.
No? Okay, so we'll continue.
No.
So just to go a little bit faster, because I'm sure some people want to hear some sources and some more information, is that, first of all, we know that the world was created for 7,000 years. And this corresponds to the 7 days of creation. And how do we know that the world was created for 7,000 years? Is because it says in the book of Yeshaya, in chapter 2, verse 11, it says, Shit alfi shnei havi alma v'chad charuv, which means the world was created for 6,000 years and 1,000 years is going to be a destruction. So destruction, I'm not going to get in the book, I'm getting into the explanation, what's this destruction, but we're going to have 6,000 years that the world is sustained the same way, and the 7th millennium is going to be a day that is all Shabbat, a day that is all peaceful and calm, and this is what we're referring to as what's called Olam Haba. And in the book I go and explain this verse, why it's talking about the 6,000 years and then the 1,000 year of destruction, but this corresponds to the 7 days of creation. And there's a verse in the book of Tehillim in chapter 84, it's verse number 4, that it's talking about that the world, that 1,000 year of ours is 1 day of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. And it says, Ke'elef shanim be'enecha keyom etmol. 1,000 years of us is 1 day of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So 1 day of creation, in the 6 days of creation, corresponds to 1,000 years of Hashem. So that's where we know that the world is created for 7,000 years, and we're already in the year 5,776. Now, there's a place in the Zohar that it's talking that when is Mashiach ready to come? Only when Hashem is ready to put his Shabbos clothes on and pray Mincha. That's what the Zohar is talking about. And of course the Zohar is very coded and a lot of the things it sounds like a metaphor. But when the Zohar is first referring when Mashiach can come, is when Hashem is ready to pray Mincha of Erev Shabbat. Now, there's a concept that is called Mincha Gdola and Mincha Ktana. Mincha Gdola is when you pray 6.5 hours after dawn.
Okay.
This is called Mincha Gdola, when is the first time you can pray Mincha. So according to the Zohar, Mashiach can only come when Hashem is ready to pray Mincha Gdola on Erev Shabbat. So all we need to do now is calculate when is the time for Mincha for Erev Shabbat. It's very simple. So how do we calculate that? Is that, first of all, we have 5 days of creation, Sunday to Thursday. So 1 day corresponds to 1,000 years of us. So that's 5,000 years. Now we have to calculate when is Mincha. Now we're calculating the day in Judaism from night. So we start the day at night, and then it goes into the day. Vayi Erev, Vayi Boker. So 5,000 years corresponds to Sunday to Thursday. Now we're holding on Thursday evening. So we know from sundown to sunrise we have 12 hours. So, and from sunrise we have 6.5 hours for Mincha Gdola. So now we have to calculate these 18.5 hours. So how do you calculate that? You take 1,000, which corresponds to 1 day, now divide it in 24 hours, times 18.5 hours, because we need to know from sundown to sunrise plus 6.5 hours. So the calculation is 1,000 divided in 24 times 18.5. So I'm going to save you the effort. Don't pull out your calculations. 1,000 divided 24 times 18.5 is 770. So now we take the first 5,000 years corresponding to the first 5 days, plus the 770 years corresponding to the 18.5 hours from Thursday night to Friday afternoon. What do we get? 5,770. This is Tafshin Ein. Tafshin Ein is 2010. That's when Mashiach can start coming, because we are now in 2016, and we're in Tafshin Ein Vav. So in Tafshin Ein in 2010, that's when Mashiach is can start happening. So we already have the first hint in the Torah when Mashiach can come. So before that, any date before that it's what's called Vachishena, like it's before the time. But now we're already past the time that when Mashiach is ready to come. This is one of the first sources in the Zohar that when Mashiach can happen. Now, throughout the numerous amount of sources, there are sources in the Torah that are more quoted. There are sources in Nevi'im. Nevi'im is the prophets. And then, of course, there's the Zohar that has the most prophecies. And then there's the Talmud, and then many books of Kabbalah. And then, of course, there are many Mekubalim and many great rabbis that came and said all sorts of things. One of them is the Gaon from Vilna, which is, very well respected by almost anyone, and everybody knew his level of in the Torah. That we have to go and do the break. Okay,
yes.
So B'ezrat Hashem will go to the break, and after that we'll talk about the next coming source.
Okay, we're going to our next break. We'll be back now. Good morning and welcome to the Kavanah Show, Body, Mind and Soul. And it is so good to be with you this Wednesday morning on 101.9 ChaiFm. And if anybody wants to SMS us with any questions or even to phone in, and the SMS line is 34519. The on-air email is onair@chaifm.com. The phone number is 074-654-7335, and I will receive the phone call here. Craig will patch it through, and so it would be lovely to hear from you. So, Alon, just before the break, we were speaking about, you were giving sources and about when Mashiach is going to come. And you're going to be touring, you're going to be promoting your new book with the Mashiach is here, wake up, call to action, and it really is a call to action. I sometimes actually wake up in the middle of the night with this kind of panicky feeling that, how much more can we wake people up to really get them on board? Because I don't want to leave anybody behind. That kind of is a very, very painful thought. So what you're about to embark on is just amazing in what you're going to share with your public and what you're sharing with the beloved listeners here today. So just to continue with the sources that you were sharing with us before the break.
Yeah, I just want to give really maybe 2 or 3 or 4. We'll see how long it will take, because I more want to talk about what needs to be done. I mean, the sources are very good,
yes, and
the sources do help. But for that, you'll get the book, you'll read it all. But mainly what needs to be done. But I know that there's curiosity, so we started talking about different sources. And I mentioned the Vilna Gaon. He's a giant in our Torah, respected by everybody. His interpretations and commentary is unbelievable depth, and his explanation of the Zohar is unbelievable. And the Gaon from Vilna mentioned many different times different prophecies and interpretation. And one of the things that he's talking about, that he says that when the country of Russia will cross, the army of Russia will cross the sea strait of the Bosorov, then you should put your Shabbos clothes on, because Mashiach is coming. And he's talking about that right before Mashiach is ready to come, the entire army, the navy of Russia, will cross through a very thin line, which is the sea strait of the Bosporov, and it's going to cross into the Mediterranean. And he says, when you see that, get ready.
yes, and it's happened.
And it happened about 7 months ago, that, all the biggest navy vessels of the Russian army crossed that sea strait on the way to the Mediterranean. and their aircraft carriers, their biggest nuclear submarines. They crossed there in such a show-off, and they made a whole show out of it. So that was one of our first signs how we have to get ready. And it happened mamash around the time of Rosh Hashanah, when there's a prophecy by the Chafetz Chaim that we have to count 10 sabbatical years from World War II. And after 10 sabbatical years from World War II, that's when Mashiach is going to come. And if you count, you'll see that right from after the Holocaust, after World War II, we did count 10 sabbatical years. And the last Rosh Hashanah, 9 months ago, that was the end of the Shnat Shemitah, of the 10th sabbatical year. And the Arizal, we talked about him many times in the previous classes, in the previous shows, he said, "En ben David ba ela bemotzei Shavit." Ben David is the son of David. It's referring to Melech HaMashiach, to the king, to the Mashiach. And he says, "En ben David ba." He cannot come before the end of the after of the sabbatical year. So 9 months ago in Rosh Hashanah, that's when we finished the 10 sabbatical years. That's when we're ready for the Geulah, for the redemption to happen. And that's when the navy of the Russian army crossed the sea strait. And that's when we're getting ready for the coming of the Geulah. And this is from a recent prophecy. But one of the old prophecies comes from a prophet called Zerubbabel. And Zerubbabel is not such a known prophet. I mean, the known ones are Yechezkel and Yeshaya, Yirmiyahu, and many others. But Zerubbabel is not a known prophet. Zerubbabel is the grandson of the king of Yehoiachin, who was a direct descendant of David the Melech, King David. And he has a prophecy in the book of Zerubbabel. And this prophet is mentioned in many books. He's mentioned in the book of Haggai and Zechariah and Divrei Yamim. And he says in his prophecy that before Mashiach will come, we are going to have possession of the city of Yerushalayim, of Jerusalem, for 40 years. And then we're going to have a period of 5 years that is called Mashiach ben Yosef. And after that, we're ready for the redemption. And for the last 2,000 years, since the destruction of the Second Temple, we didn't have possession over Yerushalayim. And when did we start having possession over Jerusalem? Is in the 6-Day War, which is 1967. That's when we gained possession again of Jerusalem. So 40 years from 1967, that's 2007. And in 2007, add these 5 years of the period that is called Mashiach ben Yosef, that's 2012. 2012, Tafshin Ayin Bet, this is the date that all the sources are talking about, Tafshin Ayin Bet. And in the book, I'm giving all these sources how all the dates are pointing to that date, Tafshin Ayin Bet, which is 2012. This prophecy is referring to that Mashiach can start happening at the year 2012. Amazingly, we know that there's Mashiach ben Yosef, there's Mashiach ben David. We're waiting for Mashiach ben David, yes, of course. But Mashiach ben Yosef is the Mashiach that will come to prepare the world. He's not going to be revealed. He's not going to be known. But he will be here, and he will act behind the scenes to prepare the world. And of course, we don't know exactly who it is, but there was a huge tzaddik that passed away in 2012, yes. And his name was Yosef, and he's the Rabbi Elyashiv, and he passed away in 2012. Which, when he passed away, everybody in the religious circle said that must have been Mashiach ben Yosef. His name was Yosef. Yes. And he passed away in 2012, and he was a great tzaddik that was very hidden, and not many people knew about his powers.
And there was such a big funeral.
No, that was Maran Ovadia Yosef.
Oh, okay.
That was a Talmid Chacham, a big tzaddik in our generation. This is Maran Ovadia Yosef, who he passed away in 2013, which is right after that, which, yes, again, a lot of people also connect to that he was also named Yosef, and it is talking about it. There's a certain place in the Gemara that it's talking about when Mashiach ben Yosef will die, there's going to be this huge funeral and the entire nation will mourn, which exactly you see when Maran Ovadia Yosef, when he passed away, they closed Yerushalayim. There was 800,000 people in the funeral, and the entire nation was mourning. But he died in 2013, which again, it's around the corner, let's put it this way. But a lot of people were referring to the tzaddik Eliashiv, Rabbi Eliashiv, who his name was Yosef, that he might have been Mashiach ben Yosef, that he was operating behind the scenes. But for what I said before about when the Russians are going to cross through the Bosorovs, then there were 3 prophets in our latest generation that were talking about it. One of them was the Gaon from Vilna, one of them was the Rabbi Israel from Rozhin, and one of them the holy Jew from Psicha. These are 3 tzaddikim that said the exact same thing, and the Baal Shem Tov said the exact same thing. So I believe we need to go to the next break. B'ezrat Hashem, maybe after this break we'll say a few more sources, but then maybe talk more what one needs to do.
Okay, we're going to our last break and we'll be back with you now.
A frequency like no other. 101.9 ChaiFm.
Good morning and welcome to the Kavanah Show, Body, Mind and Soul, 101.9 ChaiFm. And we are live from Sfat, Israel. I'm sitting together with Rabbi Alon Anava, and we are speaking about Mashiach. And Mashiach is here. Alon is going to go on a tour to America, and he's printing a book that he's taking with him with sources of talking about when Mashiach is going to be revealed. And he's just sharing it with us. He's given us a number of sources. But just in the last couple of minutes that we have, Alon, I'd love to carry on and on and on. If we can just speak about what people can do.
First, I want to say just one very amazing prophecy that it's one of my favorite ones, and it's said by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. It's not in the Zohar, it's in a Midrash, but he's talking about that when the ruler of Damascus is going to fall, that's when the birth of Mashiach is going to happen. And he's talking about, he's giving a name to the ruler of Damascus, and he's calling him Niron Mizrahi. And he says there's going to be a nation east of Israel that's going to cause wars. All the wars before Mashiach is coming is going to concentrate in that land. And when the ruler is going to fall, that's when the Redeemer of Israel will come. And he's calling that ruler Niron Mizrahi. Now, so we know that there's a nation in the east of Israel that is causing all the problems. This is Syria. All the wars are concentrated in Syria. But the amazing hint here is when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is talking about Niron Mizrahi. Who's Niron Mizrahi? We never heard of him. But if you take the numerical value, the gematria of the word Niron Mizrahi is exactly the numerical value of Bashar al-Assad, who's the ruler of Syria right now. And we see that exactly like the prophecy. All the wars are concentrated on Syria, and all we need now is for the ruler to be destroyed, and we know that Mashiach is coming. And there's really so many sources. I would wish I could sit here for 4 hours, just go one after the other. And even the ones that I mentioned, I just threw some details about it without really explaining it. That's why I found the need that it has to be written down and presented the right way. Because any person with the right mind sees not 5, hundreds of prophecies and sources talking about the coming of Mashiach and exactly when it's happening. Then one needs to definitely take action and get ready. Now, the reality is, since we're very short on time, is that the reality is Mashiach is here. And it's coming very, very soon. It can happen in a minute. I mean, we live here in Tzfat. And every second day I see the jets flying here over the sky. And when it's one jet, I'm like, okay, it's just patrolling. But when there's 4 or 5 of them, I'm like, okay, maybe something's happening. Maybe now it's happening. But the reality is that it is happening, and it's happening any second. And any person that just opens their eyes can see it. You can see how the world is just sinking into to the drain, and nothing will save the world. If people think that any peace talks, or any new president, or Donald Trump, or anyone can change the world or save the world, you can't. The world is literally going down the drain. And any way you're going to look at it, physically, spiritually, even according to nature. According to nature, we see how in the last 10 years what natural disasters we're having. Every 2 weeks there's a tsunami and an earthquake and unbelievable destruction. The point is that one needs to wake up and to open up their eyes. And in that lecture that I'm talking about before Pesach, I give a very in-depth explanation why everybody is numb. Why everybody is like these spiritual zombies, because we're all trapped in this spiritual force, this klipa that numbs everybody and puts you in this comfort zone. And you find where you are. And every time you want to come out of this zone, this klipa, this force will numb you down and tell you, no, it's good, stay where you are. I definitely suggest to watch this video because I'm explaining there in depth, maybe for over an hour about that. But the reality is that majority of people, the reason why they don't believe, because they're stuck in this power of impurity, because the klipa doesn't want you to believe Mashiach is coming. And what needs to be done, that unfortunately cannot be explained in 3 minutes, but one of the things is really learning about the fact that Mashiach is here.
Yes.
And needless to say, one needs to be totally connected to God by following the Torah, doing mitzvot, doing acts of kindness and charity, and anything you can. First of all, just to be holding on the Kadosh Baruch Hu, because when the storm is going to hit, you want to be connected to the most safest place ever, and that's only the Torah. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world. I mean, if Chas v'Shalom, the redemption is coming in not a nice way, which we see it physically, it's not going to be a nice thing to see.
No.
Like we had an example 70 years ago in the Holocaust, and we see now what's going on in Europe and in America and everywhere in the world. Terror attacks. Every day there's a terror attack somewhere. One can see that you're not safe anywhere. Anywhere that you can put your foot down, you're not safe anymore. Ultimately, the only safest place is Israel. Even though it seems that the most problems are here, this is the most safest place. There's no other safe place like Israel. But unfortunately, there's not enough time to wake everybody up in the next 3 minutes. So I suggest, you go and look at the videos that I posted about Mashiach. And Bezrat Hashem, when the book is out, go and get it and just read all the sources and get educated that it is coming. And do your own research. And everybody has to wake up to understand that it's not a dream. It's not a fantasy. This is not a fairy tale. This is not some hoax that somebody made up to keep us having hope. This is the reality. And the Jews in Egypt didn't believe. When Moshe Rabbeinu came there and he told them, I'm the Redeemer, I'm taking you out. They're like, oh no, come on, leave us alone. No, another clown came to bother us. The thing is that we have to get out of our comfort zone. We got to see the reality, open our eyes, and act. And only whoever will be connected to God and will be holding God will be part of the redemption. And it's crucial that you take action and you really take from your time, you research, you learn, you do whatever needs to be done. And even if you don't believe, just hold on to God. And needless to say, like I keep pushing everybody, if you're not doing anything out there in the world to save the world, then pack your bags and come to Eretz Israel.
Amen to that. And thank you so much, Alon, for being together with me this morning on the Kavanah Show. And I look forward to being with you next week. And have the best Wednesday, the best rest of your week, and the absolutely best Shabbos. With lots of love. Bye-bye.
The best part of your day. At the heart of your community. All the talk, all the music, all the news. ChaiFm.